FiOS 1 News, Evening Edition.
Good evening and welcome to FiOS 1 News Evening Edition. I'm Carolyn Fortino, in for Mike Gilliam. Thanks so much for watching. We'll get to our top stories in just a moment, but first, it's time for your weather on the ones. Meteorologist Jeff Denoyer is standing by in the FiOS 1 Weather Center with more. Hey, Jeff. Governor Andrew Cuomo is calling for a 4% small business tax cut and a jump in the minimum wage. These are the latest in a flurry of proposals as he unveils his 2015 agenda.
Train service has been fully restored on the Harlem line, but commuters have been advised to expect delays because trains still need to slow down when they pass through the Commerce Street crossing. In Valhalla, Carolyn Fortino, FiOS 1 News. Right now, I'm standing just across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral, where earlier this morning, Cardinal Egan's body was received by his family and his predecessor, Cardinal Dolan. Now, all day long, parishioners have been filing into the church to pay their final respects to the man who is being remembered as a great leader of the church who loved New York. Irvington police say this all started around 6:30 last night. They say a Mount Vernon man who is now in police custody began brutally stabbing a woman several times just off the train platform before he turned the knife on himself.
You're kind of being hailed as the hero in all of this.
But I didn't do anything no other firefighter in America would have done.
Chief Chris DePauli of the Irvington Fire Department was humble as he recalled details from the near-deadly attack at the train station. MTA investigators say a 51-year-old man brutally stabbed a 36-year-old woman several times. Now, at the time of the train crash, a large emergency response team had already been in place on the Taconic State Parkway where a head-on collision had taken place. After that point, the Taconic State Parkway was shut down in both directions as police continued to investigate. Passengers on board the train were transported to the Cliffs Gym in Valhalla. Many of them shed tears after waiting for several hours before they could be reunited with their families. Today, Lacey Spears' defense attorneys had their side of the story heard during closing arguments, where they pinned much of the blame of Garnet Spears' spiked sodium levels on the negligence of Nyack Hospital.
They didn't give him the proper fluids, resulted in his sodium rising throughout the day, as Dr. Goldsman told us. And then they bolused him 1 hour before they drew his blood. And that bolus spiked his sodium.
Next, Assistant District Attorney Patricia Murphy presented the prosecution's closing arguments, pointing to all of their witnesses who testified that there is no medical explanation for Garnet Spears' death.
There is no earthly reason. There is no innocent explanation for hooking a 5-year-old up to a bag containing 13,000 milligrams of sodium.
At the end of the day, Judge Neary explained all of the charges to the jurors and went into detail about the accusations against Lacey Spears. The jury did begin to deliberate, but jury deliberations will resume again tomorrow morning. In White Plains, Carolyn Fortino, FiOS 1 News. Good evening, Mike and Vanessa, and that's right, as you can see behind me, the crews are definitely still on scene here on King Street, trying to replace that pipe that burst beneath the pavement yesterday, and now the homeowners who live here on Ettville Avenue are stuck dealing with the aftermath of floodwater in their basements and cleaning up. A massive water main break washed away a huge section of King Street in Yonkers, flooding several streets and homes in the community. Residents who live on Ettville Avenue had several feet of water in their basements that needed to be pumped out by the fire department, now completely waterlogged.
Everything is still soaking wet and mud. You know, there's a certain amount of mud on everything. And you're kind of lost as not knowing what the heck to actually do.
According to the report released today by former FBI Director Robert Mueller, there were nearly 4 months of private investigations. Millions of documents were reviewed, including emails, text messages, and phone conversations, and more than 200 NFL employees were interviewed to learn exactly what happened after the February 15th incident. Today, the nation honors the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In honor of Dr. King's birthday, which was last Thursday, communities across our region are doing their part to remember the civil rights leader. But the mayor also addressed issues facing the city of Yonkers, including fighting for education funding from Albany for Yonkers school districts. Now, officials say that there was no structural damage to the buildings themselves, but that they did board up the glass in the lobby in preparation for this weekend's rainfall. Well, that will do it for this edition of FiOS 1 News. I'm Carolyn Fortino, and I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And if you see news happening, call the FiOS 1 News tip line. That number is 1-855-ON-FiOS1 or 1-855-663-4671. We are your local source for news, weather, and sports, so keep it right here on FiOS 1. We are only on Verizon.